Hi, welcome to the video solution for Edexcel IEL. This is a second video of the IEL Physics June 2019. So let's start. Question 15. A ball is hit when it is at a height of 0.4 meter. It just clears the tennis net traveling horizontally and then lands on the ground at a distance of 11.9 meter from the net. So this is the typical diagram for a projectile motion, but the projectile is not fired or thrown from the ground. It is hit above the ground. So 0.4 meters initial height. From this position, the ball is hit, or you can say the projectile. The important thing is that in this question is they are saying that when it clears the net, the ball is traveling horizontally. That means we have just horizontal motion at the top of the net. This is the key idea that we are going to use. Ignore the effect of air resistance. Show that horizontal component of the velocity of the ball is about 30 meters per second. We need to find horizontal component ux. And remember, horizontal component remains constant for a projectile motion, and we have only one equation to deal with the horizontal condition or situation or quantities, whatever you say. And this equation you can say is S is equal to U into T. This U is a horizontal velocity. You can say Ux, or you can say U cos theta. It's your choice. This is the horizontal component. So if you need to find this horizontal velocity ux, that means we have s divided by t. S is the horizontal distance, which is given in this question 11.91. This is the horizontal distance, but we do not have time in which the ball is covering or traveling that distance. But the idea is we use this vertical height to figure out the time, because the time taken for this vertical height and time taken for this horizontal distance is always same, because horizontal and vertical motions of a projectiles are independent from each other. So we use this vertical height to figure out the time, and this is a this is a vertical height, so we use s is equal to. So here you need to start from that step, because this is just for your reference that I gave you. So you start your working from this step. S is equal to ut plus half at square. Remember, we are dealing with the vertical motion, and vertical motion is accelerated motion, so we use SUAT equation or accelerated equation. So but remember, because at the top projectile or the ball is moving only horizontal, there's no vertical motion at that point. So initial vertical velocity uy at that point is 0. So this u becomes 0, and this has a vertical height, so 0.91 is equal to 0 plus half of 9.81, because ball is falling downward, into t squared, and you make t as a subject. If you do that, then t would be equal to 0.431 second. This is the time taken, and this time can be used here to figure out horizontal velocity. So now ux is equal to 11.9 divided by 0.431. That means your initial velocity will be 27.61, or you round it off 27.6 meter second inverse, or 28. It's your choice, whatever you leave, because it is about 30 meter per second. So that's how you can find the initial velocity, horizontal velocity of the projectile, and this velocity remains same throughout the motion. That means this velocity will be at the top, the same velocity will be at the beginning or at the end. Every point the velocity, horizontal velocity, remains same. Show that this is the part B. Show that the initial vertical component of the velocity of the ball after it is hit is about 3 meter per second. Now you need to find initial vertical component when the ball was just hit at the beginning. So if you see the diagram, you need to find the initial vertical component, which is uy at that moment. At the time of hit, you need to find that vertical velocity. And the ball is moving upward, so vertical velocity is continuously decreasing. At the top, the vertical velocity becomes 0. So how do we figure out that? Remember, we are given vertical height and we are also dealing vertical motion. So we need to use SWAT equation to figure out the vertical quantities. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use equation v square is equal to u square plus 2as to figure out this u. Remember, this u is the initial vertical velocity. And this is final vertical velocity in the interval. Final vertical velocity. So u is the basically initial vertical velocity at the start, and v is the final vertical velocity at the end, which is 0. And s is the height travel. And this s is basically the height travel, which is this much. This is s in this equation, which is 0.91 minus 0.4, and that's the idea I'm using to figure out this u. So let's do it now. So we use v square is equal to u square plus 2as. V is 0. U we need to find. Let's call it uy, initial vertical velocity, plus 2a. A is minus 9.81 because ball is going upward, and the height covered is 0.91 minus 0.4. This is the height covered during that interval. So if you solve this equation, then uy will be equal to 3.16 meter second inverse. This is the velocity. Okay, so let's see part C. Calculate the initial velocity of the ball after it is hit. So the idea of this initial velocity is, remember, we have initial vertical velocity uy and we have found initial horizontal velocity. So basically this is ux that we found, initial horizontal component and initial vertical component, and in the part C they are asking us to figure out this velocity u. So remember, this is again a typical question whenever they ask you to find initial velocity, not the component, velocity. That means you need to find the magnitude as well as this angle, theta. So clearly, this initial velocity is the resultant of two vertical components. So we are going to use Pythagoras theorem to find the resultant on ux and uy. So initial velocity will be ux square plus uy square root, and then ux is 27.6 whole square plus uy is 3.16 whole square root, and then u will be equal to 27.8 meter second minus 1. This is initial velocity. Remember, this is 4-mark question, so something is left because these working cannot be for just 4 marks. Definitely we need to show the rest of the 2 marks, which is about for the angle or direction of the u. So theta would be equal to tangent inverse. Remember, this is u, this is ux, and uy. So we need to find that angle theta, which is opposite over hypotenuse, opposite over adjacent. So opposite is uy. So you can see this is 3.16 divided by ux, 27.6 root, and theta would be equal to 6.5 degree. This is the angle of the initial velocity. The force extension graph shown is obtained for a copper wire. The wire does not break. Label the key point on the graph and use them to explain behavior of the wire. It is a 6-mark question. So remember, for force extension graph, there are 3 important points to remember or to know. Number 1 is a limit of proportionality. Limit of proportionality. The first point. And the second one is elastic limit. And the third one is yield point. Yield point. So these are the 3 points generally on a force extension graph. So limit of proportionality is the point on the graph where the graph stays a linear, shows a linear behavior. That's why limit of proportionality. That means you can choose a point until the line stays linear in your, in your point of view. Let's choose, I guess, this point and mark it as x. This is point x, which is the limit of proportionality, and you can say that this is the point on the graph where the graph stays a straight line. That means gradient is constant and a wire is obeying Hooke's law. So there are 2 things. Till x, material is elastic and obeying Hooke's law. If you remove the force, it will return to the original shape. And after this x, you have another point. You can take it here and let's call it y. So y is another point. This is called elastic limit. So elastic limit is the point till elastic limit, the material, or you see the graph is not a straight line. Graph is slightly curved. Graph is slightly curved. That means graph is not obeying, or wire is not obeying Hooke's law, but it still remains elastic. So if you remove force within this interval, the wire will still return to the original shape till elastic limit. So there's a difference. Limit of proportionality, material or wire obeying Hooke's law and remains elastic. Till elastic limit, material does not obey Hooke's law but is still behaving elastically. After that, you have a 1 point which is called the yield point. Let's call this Z. And Z is yield point. That means after Z, material is permanently deformed. The wire is permanently deformed and does not return. After elastic limit, material is permanently deformed. Permanently deformed and cannot return. So then we have a yield points, and after yield points we have a large extension for a small amount of force. These are typical definition, and you can write all these definition or property, whatever you say about the graph. So x and y, and this is the Z. Part B, a picture is hung symmetrically using a copper wire attached to the vertical sides of the picture. A nail in the wall supports the midpoint of the wire. The wires are inclined at an angle of 70 degrees to the vertical as shown. the total length of the wire should not exceed more than 1 millimeter for safety reason. Determine whether it would be safe to use this copper wire or not. So cross-sectional area, length of the wire, Young modulus, weight of the picture is given. So we need to determine whether it is safe to use or not. That means if we can figure out somehow the extension in the wire, and if this extension delta L is less than 1 millimeter, that means it is safe to use. Otherwise, if delta L is greater than 1 millimeter, it is not safe to use. So conclusion is, using given data and condition, we need to figure out extension in the wire. Because Young modulus is given, so we use typical idea. These are just for your reference. You can skip some step if you wish, if you know the formulae. But let's start with Young modulus. So Young modulus Y is stress upon strain, sigma upon epsilon, and sigma is F upon area divided by delta L over L. And then Young modulus will be force upon area into L upon delta L. So clearly you can see that you need to figure out delta L. So length delta L would be equal to F L upon A into Y. So length is given, which is 0.7. Y is the Young modulus, 1.3, 10 to the power 11. And area is 3.3, 10 to the power minus 7. The only thing you need to think about F. F is the force. It is possible that some of the students think that this is the weight and they take this as a force, which is the wrong idea. Remember, if you see the situation, weight is acting down, W, and you have a tension acting in the string, T. So basically, you need to figure out tension that cause extension in the wire. But we have angle 70 degrees. So we have a two component of the tension. One is the horizontal component, which is this one, and the other one is the vertical component. And of course, we know that the vertical component will be balancing by the weight, and this vertical is adjacent component, adjacent to 70 degree. That means this is T cos of 70, the vertical component of this end. We have a similar vertical component of the other end. So that means we can say that this is a step that you need to include in your working that I'm doing here. So W, weight, is balanced by 2T cos of 70. From here you need to find T. So T is equal to W divided by twice of cos of 70, and then T will be equal to W is 10.8 divided by twice of cos of 70. So T, which is the tension in the string, T will be 15.788. 15.788, you can round it off. T is equal to 15.8 Newton. This is the force that we use in the formula. So delta L is equal to, force is 15.8 into length is 0.7 divided by area is 3.3 into 10 to the power minus 7 into Young modulus 1.3 into 10 to the power 11. Once you solve that, then delta L will be equal to 2.5 into 10 to the power minus 4. This is because everything is meter square, that's what I use, meter. This is delta L extension in meter, and when you convert it into millimeter, so delta L will be equal to 0.25 multiply by 1000, so 0.25 millimeter, which is less than 1 millimeter. So it is safe to use. Question number 17. The photograph shows a pullback toy car. When the car is pulled backward, a spring inside the car is tightened. The car is then released and the spring mechanism drives it forward. Once the spring has untightened, the car runs on freely. The force used to pull back the car was measured. The graph shown how the force varies with pullback distance. Okay, this is the force in Newton and distance, pullback distance in meter. Graph is given. Estimate the work done when the pullback distance is maximum. So this is the maximum distance. We need to find the work done. Remember, work done is force multiplied by distance. That means area under graph is your work done. Area under graph. And it is not a straight line, so you need to estimate. The easiest way is you just count the number of boxes and then you can figure out. So I'm just counting it. I will take it as a, this is just I'm doing for your understanding. It will take more time, but if you do practice, you can do it in hurry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You can take it 13, and then okay, 13, and then let's call it 14, and then these two make it 15, and then this is 16, and then this remaining, this small portion, so you can call it as a 17, and there is a small region also there, so 17.5. So you can say it is 17.5. So total 17.5 boxes you have. That's what you can count, or you can have a 17, I guess. It's up to you. How do you see these boxes? So 17.5 in my opinion will be sufficient. And then we figure out area of just one box. Let me change the color. So if you see only one box, which is this one, area of this one, and then you multiply area of the one box with the total number of box, so you have 0 point, so area of one box will be 2 times this is 0.05, and then it will be 0.025. So this reading should be 0.025, half of that. So 0.025, and if you do that, this is the area of one box, and we have a 17.5. So multiply by 17.5. So if you multiply these, we have a 0.875. So now clearly you can round it off, 0.88 joule. This is the estimated work done on the car. So it's all depend in they will give you some range of this answer, because this is just estimation. The car was pulled back to its maximum pullback distance and released at the bottom of a track. The track was inclined at 7 degrees to the horizontal. The car moved a distance 1.2 meter along the slope before stopping. Calculate transfer to the gravitational potential energy as the car moves up the track. Mass is 153 gram. So now if you see what is going on when the car is released, remember the car has some energy, but the car is using that energy to going upward, and it is stopped after covering of, let's suppose this is the distance of 1.2 meter from here. So this distance is 1.2 meter, and then we need to find how much energy is transferred at gravitational potential energy. It's an easy, straightforward question. GPE is mgh. Mass is given 153 gram. You can convert into kilograms, 0.153 kg. G is 9.8. Height, you need to figure out that height basically. This is h, and if you see this angle is 7 degree and this is opposite, so h will be equal to 1.2 sine of 7. So you say that 0.153 times 9.81 g, h is the height, which is 1.2 sine 7. You solve this, you can have a gravitational potential energy, and the gravitational potential energy you can find is 0.219, or you round it off, 0.22 joule. This is gravitational potential energy. Part C, the transfer of gravitational potential energy calculated in B is less than the work done calculated in A. So we calculated work which is around 0.87 or 88, something like that. But gravitational potential energy we calculated 0.22. Our student says this shows that principle of conservation of energy does not apply in this situation. So explain why a student is not correct. Indeed, of course, the one line answer is because there is energy loss. Energy is lost during this process. That's why the gravitational potential energy is not the same as the energy stored. But because this is 4-mark question, so you need to explain in every step. Remember, what are you doing? You are pulling back the car. You are pulling back. So you are doing work. So when you pull back, you do work. Not all work is stored as a potential energy, because resistive force is acting. Not all work that you are doing in pulling does not stored as a storing energy or elastic storing energy. And when you release, then elastic energy converting into GP. Not all elastic potential energy is converting into gravitational potential energy because of the resistive forces, and resistive forces causes dissipation of energy in surroundings, so energy is dissipated. So that's how you can explain in detail every step. Part D, the toy car was pulled back and released and it moves along a horizontal floor. The car reached a maximum speed of 1.3. Calculate maximum kinetic energy. Straightforward, easy 2-mark question. So kinetic energy EK is half mv square. That means half. Mass is 0.153 times of v square, 1.3 square. So kinetic energy will be 0.129 joule or 0.13 joule. This is the kinetic energy of the car. Second part, the sketch graph shows how acceleration of the toy car varied with time until the car stopped moving. This is acceleration time graph. Discuss how this graph relates to the forces acting on the toy car. Remember, when the toy car is moving, so this is the car. So we have a driving force acting. This is called driving force, FD. due to which car starts accelerating. But we have a resistive force, friction force, acting in opposite direction. So initially, because when we pull back, so we have a maximum energy stored, so we have a maximum force acting at t equal to 0. So at t equal to 0, we have a maximum force acting at the start, so we have a maximum acceleration. But as the car starts moving, this driving force keep decreasing. That's why acceleration keep decreasing and decreasing and decreasing until at some time when at that point driving force Fd is equal to the friction force. So there's no net force, so acceleration is 0. And after that stage, at that time, because driving force is continuously decreasing, then in this region driving force Fd is less than the friction force. So you have a deceleration, you have opposite acceleration that causing to slowing down the car continuously. And after that small interval here, because Fd, frictional force, driving force here at that point, driving force is 0. And then there is only friction force is acting on the car in opposite direction. So we have a constant deceleration until the car comes to rest. So that's how you include relation of forces in your answer. This is just I give my explanation. You can rephrase, you can reframe your answer, include the forces and the position on the graph. Thank you very much. I hope you understand. See you in the next video. Have a nice time.